Hello and welcome to the Crypto Club and Digital Assets weekly catch-up on Zoom. It is Sunday the 8th of October 2023, and as is always the case with these sessions, we never know quite what we're going to be talking about. Some weeks we talk about blockchains, crypto, DeFi, NFTs, FCOs, ICOs, TGOs, TGs, any other three-letter acronyms really. The content that we discuss actually depends upon who comes along, so come along on a future session yourself. These sessions are open to everybody, novice and expert alike. There's a joining link in the comment section below. And while you're taking a look at that, do make comments and do subscribe to this channel as well. We hold these sessions every Sunday evening, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. UK time. And we have a wide range of people who come along, sometimes talking about their projects. We have the Gone in 3 Minutes section, where people have 3 minutes to talk about their project without using slides or website links or anything like that. They just talk about what they're doing. Sessions are also particularly open to novices. So all these three-letter acronyms or anything else that you hear, quite a confusing, bewildering world. So the idea of these sessions is come along and ask questions. Anyway, with that, let's see who's going to come and join us today.
Gary?
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I am good, thank you. How are you in sunny Spain?
Very well, thank you. How you told? Sunny and really hot weather.
Okay. Summer is here again, that's good.
And how are you? How is your weather time and everything in London?
Yeah, it's pretty pleasant at the moment. We're having a late summer this week for a few days, and then I think autumn and winter will arrive. So we enjoy it while we can, and we sit outside, we drink coffee, and we enjoy ourselves.
Great.
Yeah. So how is your learnings with crypto and blockchain and smart contracts and DeFi at the moment?
I started the course last week.
Okay.
With the University of Nicosia about cryptocurrency.
Brilliant. How are you finding it so far?
Yes. So I'm in the beginning, just 1 week almost.
Yeah. There's a lot to learn on that course, but it's a very good course. I always recommend it to people. That's good.
Yes. And I just was checking in bitcoin.com, Gary, that Binance marketing and that Binance has launched a new domain for UK.
They've launched a new what for the UK?
A new domain.
Okay. I didn't know about that. Interesting.
I just really thought about you, and I just read a few minutes ago.
Okay. I shall go and check into that.
You didn't know?
No. But there are some changes going on in the UK at the moment.
Exactly.
There's new regulation that starts today, I think. I think it's the 8th of October, around the marketing of crypto assets. So maybe Binance is setting something up to take that into account. I'll go away and check. Thanks for sharing that. It's interesting to know. Hey, we're joined by Christopher as well. Hi, Christopher.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Hi, is that Gabriella?
Hi.
It is. Yeah, it's the trio, the new trio. I don't think we're being joined by Elena this evening. She's off on vacation or whatever, I think. But she's just doing some training as well at the moment, I believe. So Gabrielle was just saying she's just started with the course on Introduction to Digital Currencies with the University of Nicosia, which is a great course that I recommend to everybody because it's free and it's very, very detailed as well, but very, very interesting. So,
it's free. I thought you had to pay for that.
No, so they do what are called MOOC courses. So these are the massive online things, and they do the introduction courses as kind of like tasters to their master's degrees. So the tasters are free. The master's degree is obviously paid, but they use them as a kind of an intro. So well worth checking it out with University of Nicosia. They do courses now on the metaverse, on introduction to digital currencies. I've forgotten what else, something else as well. So really good, really high quality teaching, very detailed, fascinating stuff. So
Okay.
I stand corrected. Looks like Elena's joining us. We shall see what news she brings. Elena, good evening. I wasn't expecting you this week. I thought you were back next week.
Good evening. No, I'm back. And as always, happy to be here.
A happy smiley face. It's always nice to see you on here. I know, even better for the questions that you ask. And I'm sure as your knowledge level increases, you'll be asking, I hope, still simple questions, because they're the best ones. They're the really
definitely will be.
That's good. So I don't know what's new in the crypto world at the moment to really talk about at the moment. There's the legal case with Sam Bankman-Fried with FTX, which I technically argue isn't a crypto case. It's about a cryptocurrency exchange, admittedly, and Alameda Research, which is a crypto investment vehicle. But they collapsed, and the leader has gone to court, being prosecuted. But it's all over fraud and governance and this kind of stuff. It's not actually crypto. So I don't know anyone's got any news or any insights of anything worth sharing at the moment. Everyone's always just here to listen and learn.
Yeah. I mean, it's always interesting discussions you have here, Gary. And for my part, I learn a lot. But also, in my world, I'm traveling to Riyadh next week. Yeah, next week for the Web3 Summit there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be doing a talk or keynote on innovation and entrepreneurship in the blockchain digital world that we're living in. So I'll be talking to a lot of startup founders and individuals who are looking to incubate their ideas and go through the normal build process and then maybe accelerate into the open market. So that region is, I don't know, people talk about Saudi Arabia, but I don't know how far they've come. So this is the first Web3 summit that I've seen that looks quite interesting. So I'll be going to that.
I think that they've moved a long way, because I was looking at some stuff they did a while ago. Not so much around the blockchain side, but more about the crypto asset side, where there was a really interesting project called Project Aber, so ABER, which was about inter-country settlements using crypto. And Saudi Arabia, I believe, was part of that, along with Dubai, Qatar, and Bahrain, and possibly a couple of other countries as well, all about doing inter-country, inter-company banking settlements. So they're certainly there. And they're certainly advancing quickly around some other emerging technologies like VR and AR. And then you look at what they're doing with the cities that they're developing. So that one, which is that mirrored straight line city, the name of which keeps escaping me, and I'm sure you'll know. Neon. And the cube as well, which looks quite interesting, although I get the impression the scale of the cube's been decreased a little bit, because I think they were talking about it being a kilometre by a kilometre by a kilometre or something, and they've reduced the size of it. But yeah, so I think it's a fascinating area to watch at the moment.
Yeah. I'm going to network and also find out a bit more what kind of ideas and projects that I can get involved in as well. So that's the whole emphasis of going out there. And the big GTEx, is it?
GTEx,
yeah. That's happening in Dubai, isn't it? Next week.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much going on. I mean, Dubai is definitely the place for that region of things happening. But yeah, so in the UK last week there was it Zebu Live, which was a kind of a Web3 type event. Did you go to that?
I registered for the online streaming, and then I registered for the after party. But on Friday, I was tied up, so I got to the main event up in Woolwich Arsenal late, and then I found that the after party was somewhere in Mayfair, so Soho, and it was getting late, and I thought, it was gonna start, I think, at 11 at night, finish at 5 in the morning, and a bit late for me.
Yeah, but I know that there's so much. If you're a party animal, then definitely London is the scene at the moment, because there's so many crypto, blockchain, DeFi events on where they're all having after parties and that kind of thing. It's brilliant. But for those who like a few hours sleep and have things to do the next day, maybe not so great. So, that's interesting. But yeah, you're right. GTEx is a big conference. Can't remember who's sponsoring it or who's running it, but definitely Dubai is the place to be for the actual development stuff. But I still haven't quite figured out if it's the place to be to talk about doing things, or it's the place to be to do things. I think there's a lot of talk. I think there's a lot of talk going on, so we'll see where that goes anyway. Peter joined us. Or did someone else leave? Hey, Peter. Hello. There we go. Good evening to you. Now, is he going to come off mute before he says hello? No, he's going to stay on mute. Hey, Peter.
Hi, Gary.
We're just talking about conferences at the moment, and the Middle East with Dubai in particular and Saudi Arabia. Lots of things going on in the crypto and blockchain and Web3 world at the moment.
Yes, lots going on in the Middle East at the moment.
Well, yeah, there is that as well, which I guess, Christopher, you're going to be mindful of a little bit more caution at the moment. So I had it bad. I thought I was bad enough. I was invited out to Riyadh a while ago, but it was still when there were some kind of lockdown measures in place, and I was invited to present at a one-day conference. But at that time, you had to go into government-appointed. They described it as hotels, but it didn't sound exactly like a hotel.
Quarantine centres.
Quarantine centre. That's right. Thanks, Peter. You had to go into one of those for something like 5 days before you could actually go into the city type thing. So it's like, so I'm going to go into quarantine for 5 days in a government-appointed quarantine facility, which does not exactly sound like the Marriott. And then do a one-day conference and then fly back to the UK. So I turned that one down. But I think things are a lot more relaxed healthcare-wise now. But I would imagine security-wise, it must be quite interesting.
Yeah, at least those 5 days, if you saw the Matt Hancock WhatsApp where the chief science officer said, it's conclusive now. If you don't have symptoms after 4 days, you don't have it. And they're arguing back and saying, yeah, but we could keep it at 14 days. Follow the science. We're going to keep people locked down for 10 days in prison, paying money to hotels. Yeah.
Someone made a lot of money out of that. And I could, if I could work out the crypto connection, I'd weave it in some way. So.
Well, it's a crypto connection out there with FTX and Ukraine, of course.
Yeah, I was mentioning the FTX trial just before, because I was saying how it's interesting that whilst FTX is a crypto exchange and the associated company Alameda Capital was an investment fund in crypto, the actual reason for the court action is not crypto, it's fraud and governance.
Yeah. It's like Enron. When Enron happened and they bought in Sarbanes-Oxley, they broke existing laws. You don't need new laws. They were criminals.
Yep.
You brought in these new laws, which drove a lot of listings away from New York into London, of course. Massive compliance, loads of work. I was working at Ernst & Young at the time. Loads of work for us on Sarbanes-Oxley compliance. But if people break the laws, then the answer isn't to make new laws.
Yep. Yep.
It's got what's he facing 150 years in prison just from the existing laws that he's broken. It's got nothing to do with crypto. It was a Ponzi scheme, mixing funds, not segregating clients' funds. Yeah, it was all existing crimes he did.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was invited to make a comment for one of the areas of the press where they're asking for a write-up on what my thinking was about what the impact on crypto would be of the trial. I said, well, first of all, it's got nothing to do with crypto. However, it does have a kind of a tarnishing effect because people do associate it with it. It's a little bit like, I'm sure, has everyone heard of Onecoin? I don't know, heard of Onecoin? Elena, you got a straight face. Have you heard of Onecoin?
No.
Yeah. No. Okay. So it's Onecoin. I find it fascinating because it was a pyramid scheme. So it's what's known as multi-level marketing, where they were selling effectively investments into a new cryptocurrency that was going to be better than Bitcoin, they said. But they were selling an investment into something that didn't exist. And it's probably the biggest non-crypto scam I've heard of to date, where there were millions and millions of dollars, pounds, euros now invested by people into buying into this new cryptocurrency that didn't exist. And it's fascinating. If you get a chance, you'll find it on the various channels and that. There was a radio series on BBC called Crypto Queen, and it was about the woman who was meant to be behind it, Ignova somebody, I've forgotten her name now, and she was known as the Crypto Queen, and her brother were meant to be the people behind this, and they disappeared after the police went after them, and then the brother was picked up, I think it was last year in New York, and kind of pleaded guilty-ish, I think it was. But they still haven't found her, and they don't know if she's like had reconstructive surgery or she's been killed off or whatever. But it was a fascinating story. If you get a chance, do a search for Crypto Queen.
Yeah, I remember. Now you mention it, I remember him getting arrested, and it was billions of pounds, billions of dollars.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It wasn't crypto; it was just a scam. Yep, a straight scam.
Well, I knew some people who were involved in it, and a few people actually, and they made millions from it. Okay, but I was invited to a meeting in central London back in 2015, 2016, and that's when Bitcoin was around $400 a coin, and all they were selling was PDFs of education for anything from £1,000 or just under to £25,000. So all it was PDFs of information, and then obviously they said behind all that was this coin that's going to be listed, and I knew people who put in a lot of money, but it appealed to a lot of people's greed. It appealed to a lot of people's get rich quick type of mentality. And I knew a set of brothers from Italy, Germany, who walked away with about 200 million, and but it was so obviously a scam that I was flabbergasted that people that I knew got involved,
But I found that one of the red flags for me that I found really interesting was that it was allegedly an opportunity to invest in crypto, but it was not marketed to anyone in the crypto community at all. And this was the interesting thing, that they marketed it pretty much exclusively to people who are into multi-level marketing schemes, which are legal. And that's why you'll find, as you say, they had PDF training guides, which they're selling, because what they claim is that you're actually buying the training courses and the investment opportunity is kind of incidental. And so that they therefore argue it's not an investment scheme. It's that you're buying training packages. And technically, that's how some MLM schemes work. That if they can prove that you're actually buying a product or a service and you're not doing it purely for the investment, then you can kind of get away with it. So you think about it, so some of the perfume products, Avon or trying to remember the big Amway, I think it is. These are all entirely legal and entirely legitimate.
Yeah.
That they rely on you buying something and then you selling the idea to someone else and you get a commission of what they get, and then they sell to someone else and they get a commission and so on. So the whole MLM pyramid is actually legal if it's done correctly, and so they tied in with that. But yeah, the Onecoin thing was fascinating because, as you say, I think it's about $4 billion was found to have been fraudulent. So massive scam. And as soon as you started mentioning it to anyone in crypto, then straight away they'd say, "Where's the blockchain?" And then people say, "Well, there isn't one yet." Right. So what is it you're selling? It's like, "Oh, well, we're selling into this blockchain that we're going to be releasing soon and everything." So fascinating. The radio series was really interesting, and I believe the BBC have commissioned it to turn it into either a documentary or a film or something as well. So
Yeah,
interesting.
I think obviously there was early days in the whole world of blockchain and crypto, and even now people are not educated on blockchain and crypto, or digital assets, and a lot of it is, I mean, to be honest, I've been involved around relationship marketing or networking for many years, and what you'll find is that it's one of the most dynamic distribution methods to get a product or service out to the marketplace. But it's one of the most abused, and it's hurt a lot of people, and a lot of individuals get sucked into it because of the get rich quick nature of some of these schemes. And we've been, if you look at Anchor Protocol, if you look at obviously FTX and all different types of companies that have folded, it's more or less the same thing, but in a way, the nuts and bolts behind it all, most people are unaware. And from a business perspective, if someone says they're going to guarantee 1%, 5% a day, there was another one called Hyperverse or Hibernation, a hyper fund that went round, and it was just smoke and mirrors, hurt a lot of people. So I think the whole emphasis on crypto and blockchain digital assets is given a bad name because most people are educated around it, and the population has been taken advantage of because people are desperate for money, So.
And that's what's interesting. I think Peter hit the nail on the head before as well. That it's true with Onecoin, it's true with FTX. That actually the regulators are all running around saying, "Oh, there's so much scamming and that going on. This is why we need more regulation." It's actually, well, no, because if you look at what's happening at the moment, they're breaking the existing laws. So why do you need more? You just need to enforce them. So I think regulators just use it as an excuse at times. But as I say, I mentioned it. It's like I just checked there. It's actually Ruja Ignatova, who's believed to be Bulgarian, known as the Bulgarian crypto queen, the Onecoin scam. So if you haven't read about that, fascinating thing to read up on. But yeah,
I think I met her when she was selling ski chalets in Brno. That was the other scheme out there, wasn't it? Ski chalets out in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
You buy them, and then 50 people have bought the same one. They're always going to do it. And like you say, she's disappeared. who knows where we should be found. Well,
so certainly it's an interesting story, so definitely worth checking out. But yeah, the problem is, just like FTX though, even though the scam wasn't due to crypto, it then taints it with the whole thing of, oh, you know, it's all about scams and cons. And you got things like there's a big Canadian crypto exchange as well, where the CEO allegedly had all the crypto keys to all the assets that the customers had, and then went away on a trip to Canada. Sorry, he was from Canada, went on a trip to India and died under suspicious circumstances. Yeah. And so they couldn't recover the assets because he was the only one with the private keys. It's like, again, this shows things like commingling of funds, not segregation, not providing appropriate custody. It's amazing stuff. So that's where it comes back. Christopher and I were talking last week, I think it was, about education. And I always argue that it's not the public who needs to be educated about crypto. It's the people who are in crypto who need to be educated about making it easier and making it better than that. And when you hear some of the stories of exchanges collapsing because they've lost crypto keys, it's like, that's actually the crypto exchange people who need educating in how to do custody and that kind of thing. So interesting stuff.
Well, Gary, when you read the things with FTX, and these weren't stupid people, you know, they're all at Ivy League universities. The fathers were lecturers, economists, etc. They'd got talent around them if they needed it, but they were there, and you see the story. They're all on amphetamines, all sorts of stuff. You say commingling, no governance, you know, and I think you know me back when I was doing all the governance stuff. You know, no governance at all. Absolutely the opposite of it, and yet. This is where I think it's not accidental. You've got the likes of the SEC chasing Ripple and FTX, saying it's a security. And here you've got a clear something being sold as a security, if it was anything. Put your money in to make money.
Yep.
And they don't touch them. Or the other one, FTX, they got licenses for everything. And a walk through the door on a 5-minute chat would have told you these are a bunch of chances. Yeah. And you've got XRP, so Ripple, that have spent, what, $200 million on lawsuits so far. And the judges come out and said, it's not a security. So why have you spent $200 million on this? And these guys, Terra Luna, FTX, Coinbase, you know, they're all right. And they're massive. But it only leads me to assume, Gary, that it's done, that they know about it, and they want to tarnish crypto, and they want to close. They want some FOMO. They want some uncertainty and doubt. They want to close the on-ramps. They want to cut off the stable coins. They want to cut off fiat getting in and out. Why that is, I'm presuming to clear the path for CBDC.
It could be. That's another thing in itself. So
they're not stupid people. Gary Gensler and co. They're not stupid people. Yeah. You know, they've just got a different agenda.
Exactly. It's just a matter of further out what the agenda is, because no one seems to know.
I think you could read the agenda pretty well, Gary. They want us to have CBDCs, not anonymous. They want full know your customer, full anti-money laundering, full tracking, full programmability. That seems to be what they want. And Bitcoin and Pirate Coin and all the other things around there don't fit with their agenda.
We'll see where that goes. Be interesting. So I see you've just been joined by Leroy. Hey, Leroy. Is Leroy going to come off mute and say hi?
Of course, I'm going to come off mute and say hi. Sorry, we're just finding the button over here. How you guys doing?
Hey, we're good, thanks. I've not seen the name before, Leroy. Is this the first time you've joined us?
Yeah, this is the first time I've joined. But you posted in the group with James, so I just thought I'd pop in and say hi.
Cool. Excellent. We just have a general chat. We've just been talking about the various crypto scams that aren't crypto scams. So like FTX and Onecoin and that kind of thing. I don't know, whereabouts are you from, Leroy, and what's your interest?
So right now I'm based out of London. It's a slightly longer. So originally from the Netherlands, traveled the world for 20 years or so, lived in 94 countries, visited 173. So now based in London for the last 2 months at least. Yeah.
So are you just trying to get to the last 20 or something?
Well, I'm not sure if I really want to make that effort because like a lot of these are like tiny little islands and like 3 weeks on a boat doesn't really sound like a great time, right? So yeah, I'm not trying anymore. Let's just say that.
That's fair. So what's the interest in the crypto or blockchain space then?
Let's see. So I joined crypto, let's say professionally about March last year. I was advising a company called OnRamper, part of the founding team there. So we basically aggregated fiat on-ramps in the space. And I really wanted to like build something that could be, let's say, instrumental for the space itself. And let's say doing the onboarding step that most users will have to go to at some point if they're not, let's say, call it crypto native already, then that seems like a good first place to start. So I started there. I raised 6 mil in December 21. I basically scaled it up, built a team, and exited about 2 months ago. The team is still building. Like they're still doing the thing. I mean, I've put together about 30 people or so that like know what they're doing and they're building. But for me, crypto was never really, let's just say, the impactful thing I would want it to be. Like I'm an engineer by heart, right? I started as an engineer when I was 15. Well, technically when I was like 6 years old, but long story, right? So I started as an engineer and really started like looking at what can I do to like have a good impact on the world? Like what are the things that I want to see in the world? And crypto being sort of by nerds, for nerds was never really the big impact that I thought it could have. And I was like, okay, I'm sitting on the sidelines for like 10 years. I lost Bitcoin on Mt. Gox, right? Like I've been there personally, but never professionally. So I made that leap about last year, saying, okay, if I want to see this space become what I want it to be, then I have to get personally involved, let's say more actively than I've been. So that's what I'm doing now. So I did OnRamper, now I'm doing Outdid, which is like some identity verification with zero knowledge proofs. Very interesting stuff. We can deep dive anytime on identity you want. I really very passionate about that. And I'm advising about 11 other companies within crypto right now, just like on pretty much everything from engineering, go-to-market, sales, BD, what have you. Like anything that you would have to do at a, let's call it early to mid-scale organization. That's basically where I'm advising them on.
Oh, that sounds fascinating stuff because it's interesting you mentioning on-ramping and that, as Peter was mentioning before. It seems in terms of the fiat crypto on and off ramps, the regulators seem to be constantly applying pressure to make that harder and harder for consumers to get into that space.
Yep. We've seen this a lot. And this is sort of why I wanted to build an aggregator of on-ramps, because like one tiny misprint in a contract with the payments rail or whatever, and the on-ramp is going to fail sooner rather than later, right? So I mean, looking at the landscape back then, we had maybe 60 or 70 on-ramps or so that are like, of good quality that you would want to use as an end user. Of course, fees to decide, of course, but there are not a lot of good options out there. Like there's not like one single integration you go for like, oh, we'll integrate MoonPay and we're going to be globally covered, right? And I wanted to have a solution that one gives freedom to the end user, like they can pick whatever option they want to see there. So our approach was like we aggregate as many of the good ones that we can find. And if there are some bad eggs, like we also had Wire integrated. Well, we all know what happened to Wire, right? Zample, same story there. So like even the on-ramps that we've aggregated in like that short period of time, within that year and a half or so, they already started failing, right? So it's probably going to be a never-ending game of whack-a-mole, basically saying like, okay, I guess we're going to have to integrate a bunch more. But still, there's if you're looking outside of the US, there's not very many regulations that like specifically apply to the on-ramping transaction. It's always fintech related or let's say financially related regulations start applying. It's not crypto regulations by themselves.
And I guess I was going to say, I guess that ties in with what you're now working on, where you're talking about identity, because a lot of financial regulations are around KYC, AML, but very sort of three-letter things. How are you developing with the know your customer side? Because you mentioned things like zero knowledge proof. So can you share a little bit more about how you're achieving identity management with that?
Sure. So the idea was sort of like a conglomeration of like my co-founder and I. He had his passport stolen, and he looked at the little scanner thing at the airport, like, how does it actually work? And me working on on-ramper, trying to in some way, shape, or form do KYC reuse, basically saying like you identify once with some party, and then you can share that information across on-ramps or across sexes or what have you, right? And then, of course, right into like the privacy concerns around that, like, oh, we have to set up a tri-party agreement and all this. Like, it's a big hassle. Like, it's pretty much like functionally impossible to achieve that. So I wanted to come up with something better. So we started building effectively, let's call it digitization of physical IDs, saying you have a passport, you have an ID card, you scan it with your phone, and you create it into a digital identity on your own device. And at that point, you can do anything what you want with that identity. You want to share the full scan of your passport at that point? Great, you can share the full scan. You want to just share that you're over 18? You just share you're over 18. You would just want to share that you're not from the US. Like if you have, like we have a couple of clients that are like, let's call it SEC hassled organizations. They can't operate within the US. Then, we just share, we have non-US and we have US customers and stuff like that. So the tech itself right now is for, I believe, 176 countries, passports, 1.8 billion users globally. We can verify tomorrow. I basically looked at all the KYC providers that are out there, and I've analyzed about 314 of them that are at least relevant in some way, shape, or form. And I was like, why the fuck are there 314 KYC organizations out there, right? It's crazy to me. So I just looked at all of them, and they're all approaching it in a similar fashion, where they're simply saying, okay, send us your passport, we'll check some APIs, and then we'll have a human look at it, and then we'll say, yes, you're verified, right? I was like, that sounds really fucking expensive to me, having to employ capital, like human capital, to actually like look at a passport and stuff like that. So I wanted to have an automated solution. That was like number one. So once we found out like the whole passport sender and the chips they have in there, you can effectively like read the data from a chip in your passport to then put it on your device. And then there's cryptography on it that the government put on there like 20 years ago, because the standard is not new or anything like that. And that you can then simply say, okay, great, you can verify the data yourself. With the cryptography, you can basically use a public key of the government that they use to sign the document itself to verify the document is valid. So boom, all of a sudden you have like document verification done. You don't need human capital. You can do literally all the users on the planet that have a passport like this tomorrow. Generate proof on top of that to prove anything about that user, and pretty much you have a verified user database, right? And of course, since not even us knows what that user is, because the proof itself is generated on the user's own phone, right? So it's kind of at the NFC, proof is generated locally. We don't even see the document. We don't know who's been verified, what's being verified. Well, what we can derive from the type of proof being done, but we don't know. Like if they verify their age, we don't know what their age is. We just know that they verified their age, right? And that adheres to all the strictest data minimization laws that are out there. So no GDPR, no CPPA, and like all this like let's call it privacy sensitive regulations, they don't apply, right? And right now, of course, the trick is how can we get this working for regulated KYC? And that's a hassle, because like the regulations right now basically state you have to like store a document for 5 years. To like prove like, oh, look, we checked this document, right? We verified this is the user, this is the document that we received, and you have to store that for 5 years. I'm like, great. Well, KYC is kind of bullshit to begin with. Like, if you look at like, oh, we're trying to prevent fraud, and well, even if you have a KYC AML check user, 75% of those still do fraudulent transactions. So it doesn't seem to really work, right, as a fraud prevention tool. So from that perspective, right now, we're attempting to basically go through the whole regulated KYC routine with the FCA here. So we're talking with the House of Lords to basically say, guys, this is the better solution. You developed this cryptography standard yourself, right, as a government. Why can't you use this to actually verify that this is an actual document, right? And with the rise of all the, call it generative AI that's going on currently, I don't see liveness being a viable mechanic in 6 months or so. Like there's already startups out there right now, like HeyGen out of Hong Kong, run by my friend Joshua. And with 2 minutes of training data, he can literally like generate a convincing deepfake of literally everyone. And that's crazy to me. Like, and that he literally like he built it with a team of like 4 people or whatever, and he's already at this stage of tech, right? If you look where that whole industry is going to be in 6, 12, 24 months or so, I mean, it's going to be at a point where you can literally like take a picture of Facebook of someone, and then you can literally like generate a convincing deepfake of literally everyone. And that's crazy to me. Like, and that he literally like he built it with a team of like 4 people or whatever, and he's already at this stage of tech, right? If you look where that whole industry is going to be in 6, 12, 24 months or so, I mean, it's going to be at a point where you can literally like take a picture of Facebook of someone, and then do a convincing deepfake of that person, right? That's the direction we're heading with the tech. So even KYC, like the liveness check that's currently like being done with like all the fancy AR algorithms and everything to like check, rotate your head and do a 3D scan, about all of that's going to be disappearing anyway, because it's just not going to be reliable anymore. It's already not reliable, but you know, it's only going to get worse.
But I certainly get the feeling it's a bit of an arms race in this respect, that you start using technology, as you say, things like LiveID, but then people will work out ways of automating images that, you know, fulfill the criteria for that. So then LiveID type technology is going to have to detect, is this AI generated? Then the AI people will work out ways of not making it obvious it's AI generated and all that kind of thing. So it's a constant ongoing thing. And it's definitely a fascinating area, particularly if you're trying to apply it globally, because I find some companies, the way I've seen the ones I've dealt with, they tend to be geographic in nature. So they tend to be like, oh, they're really good for European people because they've got a good understanding of European ID, or they're good in India because India's got the Aadhaar project and passports and that, or they're good in the US, blah, blah, blah. But no one is good for almost everywhere in the world type thing. So to hear you've got 170 odd countries or citizens of 170 odd countries covered sounds most impressive.
It's the same. So at MoonPay, we had the same problem. We were using SumSub initially, and then we're like, oh, great. Like, we see 8% fraud in Vietnam. Great. That's, you know, like, you caught that fraud. Amazing, right? Where else have you caught fraud for me? And, you know, then the answer becomes like, we don't know. Yeah, but of course, if you don't detect it, then you don't have rates, right? But we also like the whole process. We ended up going with the aggregator approach there also for KYC, basically just like integrating a bunch of them via API and trying to get it done that way. It's always going to be an arms race with most of these, let's say, fraudulent or people trying to, like, say, bypass KYC. And the beauty of that, or no, maybe not the beauty, maybe that's the wrong word here, but the externalities there are effectively that any organization that's trying to do this in, let's say, illegitimate format will always have privacy regulations that they can't just like use millions of pictures of people to like train their algorithms. Whereas the fraudulent guys don't really have that problem, right? They can go crawl Facebook for all the pictures that they want to create better deepfakes, right? And that's sort of like that arms race where if you're a legitimate organization trying this, you're never really going to be able to catch up to that. And you see the same thing on the generative front, like like the initial generative stuff that came out from Adobe, right? Fucking looked like shit. Like I saw like one Deadpool thing that was like, holy fucking shit, this is like a 3-year-old draw it, right? And then you saw the open source guys, literally just using random trading data from the internet and like creating beautiful fucking shit, like Mid-Journey and whatnot. It's all coming from that direction, right? So it's going to be the same with like the fraud prevention stuff. If it's legitimate, or they're going to be hamstrung by regulations effectively to do this effectively.
That's why I always say that different industries adopt and innovate at different paces with technology, and the leading market of the most innovative people are criminals, followed by the military usually. But the thing with criminals is that they're not hampered by regulation. They're highly innovative. It's highly competitive market, that kind of thing. You might want to head into the ethical thing of where does criminality stop and the legitimate things begin. It's quite blurry. But yeah, so it's typically that's where they tend to be first movers. And it's either the thing that seems to motivate quite clever people at times is either the opportunity of making a lot of money or the opportunity of not being killed. And both of those tend to be quite good incentives to innovate. So fascinating stuff, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, don't let's say underestimate the let's call it recreational capabilities of humankind, right? Without the, let's call it, the innovations of the porn industry or the gaming industry, we would not have, let's say, online payments right now. First credit card payment done by a porn organization. I mean, let's call it scarcity breeds clarity, if that is the phrase, right?
Yep. It was the sex industry who were the leaders at online payments. Originally, and that's fascinating because I once drew out a kind of a spectrum of innovation in different industries. And it started off with criminals, then the sex industry, then the legitimate sex industry, then more and more legitimate. And you ended up with like about 10 years behind the times was banking kind of thing, and 15 years behind the times insurance, which is my area of expertise, which is where I find it fascinating, because I just love seeing what criminals and various other industries are doing, because that'll hit the insurance sector in about 15 years' time. So, well, yeah, it's interesting as well. You're talking about deepfakes and that kind of thing. Nvidia, I saw some fascinating stuff from them recently. Nvidia, world-leading graphical processor unit manufacturer, so the GPU chips in gaming computers and that kind of thing. And their last annual report, their live stream, if I remember correctly, with the CEO, I don't know if people are aware of this, but the CEO did his standard, talk to the shareholders on screen. And at some point, they flipped it and they replaced his image, and they didn't say anything about it, but they flipped it to a artificially generated image and voice, but they didn't mention they'd done it. So they got effectively this avatar that still looked exactly like him, speaking for 15 minutes, and then it flipped it back to the real him again. And they didn't mention they'd done that until the end of the conference. And it just shows the power of all this kind of stuff. So I think, as I say, it's a general arms race, but identity, deepfakes, definitely the area where it's all fascinating stuff.
Yeah, and imagine like Nvidia, an organization that's like arguably the world leader in any of these type of, let's call it, hardware applications of AI. Everything that's currently coming out from them is pre-GPT, right? Like everything they've produced right now, all the chips they've optimized so far are pre-GPT, right? Like GPT wasn't around when these things were designed. So you can only imagine like the leaps and bounds ahead the next generation of chips is going to be optimized for this specific technology. And that's also one of those things that we're going to be looking at, where we see effectively the capacity that we're going to have available to do these type of things go 10, 100x in the next couple of years.
I also think it's when you look at large language models and generative pre-transformers, which, as you say, you've got GPT, it's all about statistics. And statistics is mathematics, and mathematics is what GPU chips are really good at doing. So yeah, it's a natural thing. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where all that goes next. So, well,
Can I add something on there, Gary? Because it's this thing about the KYC and the AML. And I got a chat with my bank, NatWest, and they wouldn't let me move some funds. They wouldn't let me on board, which we've spoken about before. And they took me through an hour of know your customer, etc. And I've got all the voice recognition, the biometrics recognition, the blink, and then it was the router number, the model on my phone, everything else. And then they told me, no, we're not allowing you to put any money on. But they spent an hour, and I got quite angry by this time, of course, because it was just, they weren't telling me anything, and they've just kept taking me through layers and layers. And I said, do you know how much your bank got fined for money laundering? Yeah. I said, do you know, you're telling me I'm a crook. You're treating me like I'm a crook, and all I'm trying to do is get my money out to somebody, a contact who's set up, and you're taking me all through this. And, I've done all the governance stuff and the fraud and the assurance stuff. You're going through all this, but I'm in it. I'm just trying to move my money somewhere. When I go to the bank, if I have to draw £1,000 out and I say it's crypto, it's forbidden now. But I can say it's for another penis enlargement. It's to pay my coke dealer. It's to take to the casino. It's to bribe a policeman, and you give me the money. So it's kind of, why are you putting me through all this stuff? And what's it doing apart from making life difficult? Says I don't do crypto. But I don't see the purpose of it or the utility of it, because the people who are actually laundering money are doing that quite fine. Thank you very much. The FTX, all the money gets sent to Ukraine and washed back through, and now all the manpads are appearing in Israel. The really big money, the hundreds of billions, that works fine.
So
I don't know why we're pushing so much onto us when we're not doing the crimes.
I'll offer two quick things on that. The first is that there's an organisation in the UK set up called the Transparency Task Force, and it's a community-based group who are trying to turn around what some of the banks are doing and that kind of thing, they now publish a fines database where you get to see the fines that banks have paid out for breaches in KYC and breaches in AML. And I found it fascinating because when they first launched it, it goes into, I think there's about $2 billion a year in fines paid by banks for KYC and AML breaches. So this is that's where they've done some sort of money laundering illegal activity and didn't admit to it, so they've been fined accordingly. And Transparency Task Force, some of the people in that were saying, well, this is great because we'll improve the visibility and it'll reduce the amount of that kind of activity that goes on. I said, well, it won't. Where do you think the fines are going? It's actually, it's a form of revenue for the governments. So, they could stop it. And the other thing that people don't realize, well, two things. One is, first of all, if a bank identifies a transaction as potentially fraudulent in some way, so it might be, money, it might be criminal activity or terrorism financing, they can still go ahead with it as long as they raise what's known as a suspicious activity report. And they do that all the time. So they go ahead, they don't delay the funds, they pay it. And as long as they raise a suspicious activity report, they can't then be prosecuted for it. So you've then got the situation where they're now knowingly doing illegal, they're enabling illegal things. But as long as they report it, they're actually off the hook, which is kind of bizarre. And then the final thing is, Peter, this is where I find I have to correct people quite often when they say about banks not letting them do stuff with their own money.
It's not my money when it's in the bank.
Exactly. Yeah. People still don't realize once you've put the money into the bank, it ceases to be your money. You've issued a loan, and therefore it's the bank's money. And so this is why they can argue that, they have to do all this KYC and AML in order to protect themselves, and yet they'll present it as though they're protecting you. So we're looking after you, and we're making sure that you're not defrauded. But if you want £1,000 to go to the casino and lose it, that's fine. But we won't let you have £1,000 put on Bitcoin because that might be fraudulent in some way. So I get that.
Yeah, I also don't really understand why people want to use crypto for money laundering. They do realize it's a public ledger, right? That's going to be there for pretty much forever. So maybe there's going to be some traceability in the future. Just saying.
I always used to say that if I'm giving presentations or talks on crypto and emerging technologies and that, I always have a rider at the beginning, which is that I'm not offering financial, legal, or taxation advice. I actually extended that to say I'm not giving financial, legal, taxation, or criminal advice. But if you want to go money launder or do a legal transfer of funds, then the US dollar is the best way of doing it, because suitcases of dollar bills are much harder to track and trace. And I've long held the belief that I actually think that law enforcement agencies like criminals using crypto because of the very fact it's doing this complete ledger of what they're up to. And there was a case a while ago, I think it's in Sweden, there were a pair of drug dealers who were prosecuted, and it was actually transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain that were used as evidence to prove that they were transferring funds and doing all this kind of thing. So exactly as you say, Leroy, it's like, do criminals really want to use this thing that's keeping a great ledger of everything they're doing?
Yeah, there's a rumor about the security agencies inventing Bitcoin. If they didn't, they missed a trick. Yeah, the CIA didn't invent the iPhone; they missed a trick. I'm not saying they did, but if the Stasi could have rolled out the iPhone, fingerprint this, and face recognition before you send a message, geolocate you at the same time, run your camera, run your microphone. It's totalitarian regime's wet dream, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we're all living in the surveillance state that we carry this tracker device with us everywhere, don't we? Which tracks everything we buy, everyone we speak to. I see
everyone we're next to.
Yeah. Well, that was the interesting thing the other day, where someone discovered just how much information modern cars are now sharing. So when you sit in someone's car and you don't think about it, and it's a new Ford or whatever, well, it captures the Bluetooth signal and the Wi-Fi signal of anyone else's phone who's in the car. So now they're able to track who you're giving a lift to and that kind of thing. It's like, yep, amazing stuff. So anyway, I don't want to disappear down the rabbit hole of surveillance states, particularly not in the last few minutes, and particularly not on a unencrypted platform where they probably are recording all of this and using AI, which is in Zoom's terms and conditions that they can do that anyway. So we'll stay away from that. And in the last few minutes, I just wanted to open it up, really ask, has anyone got any other comments, questions, anything they'd like to share?
No, I mean, Leroy's piece has been really interesting, Leroy. Thank you for joining us. Is it possible to connect on LinkedIn? Do you because
Sure, yeah, feel free to connect. Like anyone, I mean, I can drop a link tree if you guys want.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be great if you put in the chat. Because I'm really interested in obviously the identity, KYC, and all the things you do. Because I'm doing a talk in Saudi Arabia on startups who are starting up on the blockchain, and I just wanted to give them as much information as possible to enable them to incubate their idea through into something that you know is going to be successful for them. So maybe I can have a chat with you regarding that.
Sure, I'd love to have a chat. Let me see. I'll drop my LinkedIn here.
Always useful, and always happy for people to share the details now. That's really useful. It's one of the great things about building communities and learning and sharing from each other and that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Leroy.
Power of the network.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
And that's the thing I love. I was running one of these a while ago, and I ended up connecting two people from opposite sides of the world together, and ended up doing some business together. It's like fantastic when you can do that. That's good. Well, okay, that's good. So you got Leroy's contact details if you need that. That's great. Last couple of minutes. Anyone got anything else to add for the week?
Nice session as always.
Sorry, Eileen, I didn't catch that. I talked over you then.
We always have nice sessions, and today it was not an exception.
We always end up covering some quite interestingly different stuff as well, which is what I really enjoy. People have said to me, "Wait, maybe I should run these with like a fixed agenda and a fixed format." I go, no, part of the fun is we just go off in different directions and that's part of the entertainment value. So,
yeah. Can I just ask something there, just to go out on, which is I listened in on the Digital Pound. They do last week. They do talks every month, and they've got Avalanche on board, but rollout of lots and lots of CBDC projects. And I think you might know, Gary, the agenda for the IMF is every member to have a CBDC ready by 2025, huh?
I didn't think it was that soon. I thought it was more like 2030.
Ready
Okay.
by 2025. But Avalanche were on the course, which was a left field for me. So pretty much all of them are working with Ripple, at least for the Enbridge, etc. But Avalanche are in there. And it was when the switch is over, when Fed Now is out, Digital Pound is out imminently. They've been doing a consultation that no one knows about.
No, well, there's two things. But by Digital Pound, you mean the Digital Pound Foundation?
Yeah,
which is the independent group. So they've been running loads of stuff. I've been to a few of their events.
Yeah.
You'll tend to find that Quant is the one that's in the background with that one.
Yeah.
Which is quite active. Whereas if you're talking about the Digital Pound project that the Bank of England is running, as you say, they did a consultation that I think they actually had 50,000 responses on, which surprised them. because I think they didn't think anyone knew about
They
it.
didn't tell anyone.
Yeah. But they got a vast amount of responses because various consumer groups heard about it and that kind of thing. But they're talking about, I think it's until 2025, they're just doing the research at this stage as to what the options are on that. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, CBDCs, another topic for another day, I'm afraid. That'll be a good one.
So Gary, did you say the digital pound and the digital foundation were not combined?
No, they're separate things. You've got a group called, I think it's called the Digital Pound Foundation.
That's the talk I was on last week, yeah.
Yeah, so that is, in theory, an independent group, which has had people from the Bank of England speaking on it. Yeah. But you'll find that that's an independent group that tends to have quant on it. They tend to have invited people from the Bank of England there, but they are different to the official project that the Bank of England is running.
Thank you for that. Yeah, Bank of England have been on, Quant have been on there. Yeah. Not Avalanche were on this week. But yeah, consultancy groups, etc. there. And I thought they're divulging quite a lot of what should be quite a closed project, but it's separate. Okay.
Interesting. So, right, folks, we're at the time where I'm going to have to close the call off, I'm afraid. So thank you, everyone who came along today. Nice to see some new faces. Nice to see some familiar faces as well. So thanks for joining, everybody. Have a great day and see you all again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for letting me
Gary.
take the space and everything.
Cheers now. Have a great day, folks. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.